Yo, I am back. It's good to see you guys. Sorry that I didn't upload much this week. I was very busy, but I made a Twitter post about maybe making a video on how I make my thumbnails, and I got a couple responses, so that's what we're doing. I personally won't go over like all the prerequisites that we do need, but I will put them in the description. I'm mostly just going to show you guys like what I do in Blender and then what I do in Photoshop. Make it nice and easy. Video's not too long. I don't want to bore you guys out because I know I'm not really that great. But anyways, before we dive into Blender, you guys do want to see more videos like this or any other videos? Remember, subscribing is 100% free. It helps the channel. And did I mention it's 100% free? Just click the damn button. All right, let's get into Blender. Actually, so real quick before we get into Blender, I forgot to tell you guys about UE Viewer. So after you get it installed, you go wherever you need to, you find your DVD path. All right, so after you guys get into UE Viewer and you find your Dead by Daylight path, you go to Unreal Engine 4 and Unreal Engine 4.27. You click OK. And now the best thing you can do is what I did personally. You see this folder that says game. Normally you would go down to characters, campers or survivors, and slashers or killers. So what I did to save myself a lot of time is this entire folder. I exported folder content and I sent it to a random place on my hard drive that I can always find. I'll let you know it's 100 gigabytes, so it will take a while. So what you can do is if you're in a hurry, you can just go here, go to characters, campers, whatever you need. I'm going to go to Haiti because I know that's spirits folder. And we're going to open folder content, right? And then when you get into UE Viewer, you want to hit navigate, include meshes, page up and page down to help you navigate through this. So as you can see, we got all of our fancy weapons here. And we are going to do a little anniversary spirit. So what we're going to do when you need to tag something so you can keep it on the screen, you hit Control T and then you can page up and page down just like normal. Control T that hair because we know that's her default hair, just like that. Then we keep on going and we know that this is a default spirit face because it says right here at the top HK_head01. Then we tag that as well. And now we just have to find a body. What body are we going to do? OG kimono? Nah. We'll just tag default body for now. This is fun. So normally when you get to this point, you have all your models tagged. You would hit tools. You would hit export current object, and it's going to export this exact outfit with all of its textures to wherever you decide to send it to. But I have everything, so I'm not actually going to export this. I'm going to get it off my screen. Oh, wait. Skill issue. So I'm going to drag it off my screen, right? And now we're going to dive into Blender and import our model. So boom, you get into Blender. You hit General. Nobody likes a cube, so you press A. That highlights everything on your screen. As you can see right here in this corner as well, everything's selected. Then you want to press X and see how it says delete. You click delete and bam, everything's going. So now you install all your add-ons and you're ready to go. You press N, the letter N as in Nate. And that brings up your little sidebar right here. And the first thing you're going to need is the PSK PSA add-on. You hit import PSK and then you will go to your folder where all your stuff is that you exported. You click it, you go to game, go to characters. And if you exported a survivor, you go to campers. And if you exported a killer, you go to slashers. So you go there, then you find your characters folder, you go to models, heads, you find the head that you exported. And if there's any accessories, they'll be in this folder. Like the mask that I'm going to use is in this folder. It is actually mask 015. So you go to models, see how it says HK mask accessory 15, bring that up and boom, you see she has a mask. So you import again. We have to get her hair. Oh, I should probably also mention that. Okay, so to move around, like see if you left click, it just drags like these little boxes. Right click brings up this menu. So the way you move around is you click your mouse wheel to spin up and down and around and around. And to move up and down, you can either use this hand tool right here on the right hand side, or you can hold shift and move your mouse wheel up and down. Okay, back to it. So we're going to import PSK because now we need her body. And I like to use this move to the parent directory button. It's just faster than going through all those steps again. So then you go to body. Survivors have torso and legs separately, but killers typically only have bodies. So we're going to import body 01 because that's her default body. And the last thing you need to do is import a skeleton so you can fuse it all. You can check skeleton here, or you can check skeleton here. That part's really not super important, but just a little bit of information. And we're going to put the skeleton on reorient bones so it separates the twist and the roll bones from the actual skeleton. Then we're going to go back. You see how it says HK skeleton ref. You only get this if you export the entire game folder. If not, you have to go back to that character's folder. And when you click on that character's name, it'll show you all their skeletons. Like I can actually show you right now. So you back in UE viewer and you see your model, right? You can press the letter O and it brings up your actual menu again. So in order to get Spirit's actual skeleton, if you don't have it, you would click on Haiti. You would go to models and you see how it says HKD skeleton ref. You would export this object. See, I just exported it. I didn't need to, but I did. All right, now back to Blender. Okay, so we import the skeleton. You see all of them, right? It's a lot of freaking bones on the screen. So what you're going to do is you're going to highlight everything. You can press A. You can go to your Fuse Skeletons add-on. You hit the drop down that says Select Skeleton. Then you select your default skeleton, and it doesn't populate it here, but it highlights it in this right-hand corner over here, so you know which skeleton you selected. And then you hit Fuse Skeletons, and now all of your bones should be fused. Now, what this does is when you import animations, you don't have to import them all separately and stuff like that. So if you exported the entire game folder, you'll have all of the animations that you can use, because that's what I do. I import an in-game animation and I find like a specific frame that looks the best, and it's usually what I use. And if I need to change anything, I'll kind of change a couple of things about it. So what you do to get your animation, you select the skeleton, you go back to your PSK PSA add-on, you hit import PSA. And then you go back to your game folder. You find, if it's a killer, you find their unique folder. And if it's a survivor, it's a little bit different path. But I'm using a killer, so I'm going to go through that path. Okay, so you go to Haiti, animation sequences. Attacks are like weapon attacks. Hits are like stuns. If you get stunned by pallet, decides to strike, all of that. Interactions are like you drop survivors, you grab them out of a locker or off of something. So they have locker grab, locker interrupt. This is when they come out of a slow vault and you grab them, they interrupt. Grab obstacles back. Okay, so this is like if they go through a window vault, I assume. You have hook animations, you have a Mori animation, pick up, search locker, or whatever. But I get most of mine from, whoa, didn't mean to do that. All right, skill issue. So I didn't mean to do that. So I get most of mine from locomotion. Like typically ones you can use that are good are like, most people use this. So just the lobby animation when you select a character and you're like selecting your perks and stuff like that, and you hear it in the background, as you can see, it's a pretty simple animation. This is when she pulls her weapon out and her blade's normally here, but I didn't import it. All right, so we're actually not going to use that animation. So we're going to go back to import PSA. And in my locomotion folder, one I like to use a lot is power out. Let's find it. All right, I actually don't see it, so let's see where it is. All right, so when you get into the folder that you find your animations for, if it's a killer, you typically don't want to use first person views because as you can see, they do weird things, because this this is what you see on your screen when you're using your power. So they have to adjust the camera to compensate that. And as you can see, it looks pretty fucking weird. So don't use first person view animations. So you go back to your folder and you find a good animation, one that looks good or one that you can pose uniquely to get what you need. All right, so we're going to use an attack swing because we want this face right here, this exact face. So as you can see down here, if you have the skeleton selected, it shows you how many frames are in this animation, which are 9. And if you scroll through it, it'll play through it, right? But we want the loud, the loud spirit. That's what we want. So we're going to use that. So after that, after you get your animation and stuff like that, you can shade your add-ons. And Spirit's a little bit differently, so I'm going to speed through this because normally it's not that difficult. So what you want to do is find your UE shader script add-on, right? And this little folder, you can click either one of these. When you click it, it pulls up a file viewer, and you want to find where your folder is, and you want to select game. And that is it. You don't want to go any further. If you go any further, like looking for textures and stuff like that, it can corrupt the files, and then you actually won't be able to use them. So you select game, you hit accept, and then what you would normally do, like if it's a survivor, you would press A, and you would hit add shader maps to all selected materials at the bottom. Then it does its thing. Okay, so once it loads all the textures, which it hasn't yet, forewarning, if you do export the entire game folder, it takes a pretty long time to actually find the texture. So your app may say not responding, just don't freak out. So now it loaded all of the shaders and textures that we need. See how it says error text location and props text does not exist. You hit OK. And then you want to go to this top right corner right here where my mouse is. And you want to hit viewport shading. And it'll show you all of the textures. And as you can see, it colored it, but it did not texture Spirit's hair or body properly because this isn't what she looks like in game. So I'm going to quickly speed through these extra steps and I'll be right back whenever everything's fixed. All right, so I got everything fixed and I have the animation that I would like to use. So now here comes the fun part, finding a good camera angle. So what to do is, being you deleted the first camera you had, you want to press Shift plus A. And it'll pull up this little menu. It's add. You want to find camera, right? And normally you can go to the left over here, find your little move tool, and you can move your camera around left to right, up and down. Or if you use the rotate tool, you can rotate it up and down, left to right, yada, yada, yada. There are shortcuts for this, so I do recommend learning them. But what we're going to do is we're going to find where we want our camera at, which is about right here, right? And what we want to do is hit Control, Alt, and if you have a number pad on the side of your keyboard, you want to hit that, Control, Alt, 0, and it automatically puts your camera at the last thing you were looking at. So this is kind of close. So what we can do is you can zoom out and you can use the move tool and you can move your camera where you need it to, or you can stay zoomed in like this. You can go to the right where it says view, and you can tick the box that says camera to view. And what this allows you to do is allows you to scroll in and out and adjust your camera position. Or if you move like this, it adjusts your camera position. So now we're going to find a good angle for this. All right, so found a good angle that I would like to use, but it's still just a little bit closer than I would like it. So if you have your camera selected over here under your scene collection, you would select your camera. Then you want to go down to the tab right below it, and you see this little camera icon at the bottom with all of these. You want to click on it and it says focal length. Just kind of want to dial it until you get your desired zoom. And I'm going to go a little bit more actually. All right, I think that this is good. Okay, so now for the fun part. You want to get out of your camera, right? You can see your model still here. Now you have to add lighting, because if you go back up to the top right here and you put it in rendered view, see it's all dark and stuff, right? It's not going to work. So what you want to do is you want to add, which is Shift A. and you want to go to light. I typically use point lights, but you can use area lights or a spotlight. You can use whichever one you want technically. So you add a point light, find your move tool, and you move it where you need it. Lights aren't very bright to begin with. Typically, you want to go with like 3-point lighting or something similar to that. So we're going to add all of our lights, kind of position them where we need them, and then we'll adjust like the power and stuff like that. All right, so now that we got all of our lights, what we want to do is we want to adjust the power and stuff like that. But actually, I skipped a step. So before we get into that, you want to go to the camera that it says render properties over here in the right-hand side. And you see how it says render engine, where my cursor is? You want to hit that drop-down tab and you want to change it to cycles. And you want to change device to GPU compute. And what that does is, see, this looks significantly better than it does on Evie. You can see the difference in her hair. All right, so now that we're on cycles, before we render, we want to go back to our lighting, okay? So have our lights, and what you can do is you can go under scene collection and you can select each light individually. Like this is the first light we put in, it's directly in front of Spirit. So this is a personal preference, but what I like to do, these are the light settings that I use. I like to change my radius to about 4. See, it makes this light really big, covers a decent area. And I like to change a power to around 1000. And if you click the camera button, you can see she's lit up pretty good right here, right? So we're going to go on to the next light. And do the same thing. We change it to 4. And actually, which light is that? Okay, so there's lights to our left. We want to make this one kind of bright as well. So we go back into our camera, check the lighting, and we set this one to about 1000 as well. See, it got this side lit up pretty nice too. Then get out, we go to this backlight right here, which is pretty much directly behind her. Give her a nice profile in the back. Want to set that one to about 4 meters as well on the radius. Now for the brightness, you just kind of play with this one and see what you like. If we do 1000, well, it's not even the right thing. If we do 1000, see it lights all around her hair up. Doesn't really do much for Spirit. So we're going to put that one kind of low because we don't want her hair to be all crazy looking and stuff and washed out. So we may turn these two down as well to 750. See what that looks like. Yeah, see, that looks pretty good. Your character's nice and lit. So you're almost ready to render. You got your camera, you got your model all nice and lit up. What you want to do now is you want to go to render properties again, and you want to scroll down, see where it says film. You want to hit film and you want to hit transparent. That way there's no background. You see it changed? And now this is personal preference. My PC is not that great, so it saves me a lot of time doing it this way. And you want to go to performance. And you see how it says memory, use tiling. You want to change your tile size to something like, I typically do 400. 400 is good, 250 is good, 300 is good. Personal preference, whatever you decide. And after that, render, you see where it says max samples. This is the number of samples it takes, like pixels or something like that, in each little tile that it's going to do. I usually do 256 because it's pretty high quality. And then you go to output properties, and this is going to be the size of the image that you use. I always do it in 4K because I find it look the best. So where it says format and it says resolution 1920 by 1080, you want to change that to 4K, 1440, whatever you decide to render, or you can leave it in 1920 by 1080. I'm going to change mine to 3840 by 2160, so it renders it in 4K. And this is the final step before we actually press the render button. You want to go back to your UE shader script add-on, and you want to go all the way to the bottom where it says Pit Princess. You want to go all the way to the bottom where it says Pit Princess Custom Denoising Setup. And you want to click Blender 3.0 Plus. And it imports all kind of compositing settings and it makes your renders look really, really, really nice. See how it says Custom Denoising Setup was successfully added or added successfully. Words are hard, can't read. You want to hit OK. And now you're ready to go. Go to render at the top, or you can press F12, render image, and you let it do its thing. You may have to zoom this out a little bit because my monitor is not 4K, so it doesn't actually fit the screen. Depending on your PC, this could take a few minutes. This could take several minutes. So I will be back when this render's done. Okay, so now your render's done and you need to save it. So what you want to do is you want to go up here, you want to click image, you want to save as, you want to make you a good spot to save it. So you save your render, now you're ready to make your thumbnail. I don't save anything, so don't judge me. And now what you want to do is you want to open up whatever you're going to use to make your thumbnail. I use Photoshop, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to open Photoshop and we're going to get to work. All right, so boom, you're in your photo editing software or whatever you use. Now, typically for backgrounds, you can Google things like DBD maps, or you can do anything of the sort, and you typically find good backgrounds, but that's not how I make my thumbnails. So still the same steps. You know, you layer it and you get everything ready. So let's get to it. So what you want to do is you want to import your model or your render that you did. You want to find it and you want to get it in. So here's my model. I'm going to paste mine on this because I like the way this layout is. And being mine is the image is bigger, so you have to shrink the image to fit. So boom, I shrink the image to fit. I zoom back in. And I get it exactly where I want it. I think I want it about right here, and I actually want it a tiny bit bigger. I'm going to do this. And now we import the background. What I do for my backgrounds is I typically use like a solid color with a texture on it. So I import a lot of things you'll see. And I'll actually get my bucket tool over here to fill my background. And now I need to find a color. Let's see, what color do we have selected? Purple. Not quite sure how I'm feeling about purple. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to find a better color. All right, so we're actually going to go with purple. This is fine. And now I'm going to import one of the textures I typically use for my backgrounds. Okay, so I got my texture imported. I'm going to copy it and I want to paste it on my project. And as you can see, it looks like this. So if you're in Photoshop, and you probably know this, you can go to this little tab where it says normal and you can change it to screen, and it kind of makes it transparent to fit onto this little background right here. So now we're just gonna add some text. Let's see, we're going to, oh, that's transform. Okay, so we're actually gonna get our text tool because we don't know keybinds. And we're gonna use the horizontal type tool. Do a little thingy like that. And we need to change our font size because that is way too big. I'm gonna go with something like that. I'm gonna go with how to. And we have to change the color because that's not gonna contrast very well. So we're gonna go with white. And now this is maybe like an OCD thing or something, but I like my little box to be like the exact same size as my text. Now we're going to transform. After we select the layer, I'm going to transform, make it just a tiny bit bigger. Actually, I'm going to make this about that size. And now we're going to get another text tool. to find this one. And this one's going to say make. We're going to do how to make thumbnails or DVD thumbnails. I haven't quite decided yet. So we got that out of the way. I'm going to select all, and we're going to make this one. I'm going to make this text yellow. And now we need to position this one. We're going to do it around the center of that one. And another text tool, let's see. Drag a little box. And we're going to do DBD, but we're actually going to change that. We're going to leave that yellow actually. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to hit, We're going to hit enter to go to the next line. I'm going to put thumbnails. And it's not populated because my box isn't big enough, as you can see. So now we have our entire word, right? But our H is capitalized, so we're going to fix that. Okay. So there's that. And actually, we want to change thumbnails to a different color as well, so we can have a little contrast. And I'm thinking this green looks fine. So now we have to position this in a way, make it look good. Okay, so this is the center. All of these things are perfectly centered, right? So now we're going to select all three layers and we're going to transform them together. Make it a little bit smaller. And what we're going to do is, the words are like on top of your character, and I typically don't like that. So we're going to drag it below, but now we can't read the word thumbnails. So means we have to change it. Okay, so the text was giving me a little bit of difficulty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use something else because I can't quite position the text the way I want to. It's a personal preference thing. But rule of thirds with text are very good for thumbnails. So I don't want anyone to think that they shouldn't use text in their thumbnails. So we are going to import a 7th year cake icon. I'm going to paste it. It pasted directly behind Spirit. So what we're going to do is hit Control T to transform. And we're going to scale it up, get it about centered, make it nice and big. Turn it just a tiny bit. And there we go. So now this is like more personal preference, but this is like, you know, using a little contrast and vibrance and stuff like that, just to make the thumbnail pop just a tiny bit. So if you're in Photoshop and you don't know how to use Camera Raw, what you want to do is select a layer of whatever it is you want to change. You want to hit Control, Shift, and A. Then it brings up a little screen that looks like this. Camera Raw, whatever version of Premiere you have. And you just kind of want to adjust. I typically adjust the contrast a decent amount. And I adjust the exposure a very small amount. Like usually like a 1.0 maybe. Or whatever I can set the slider to because I'm weird and I don't just type in the numbers. And you want to adjust the vibrance. And what that does is it helps bring out the colors without like, you know, going too crazy with the contrast. As you can see, her horns on her mask are a little more blue than normal. And then I like to go to the detail tab and I use the noise reduction because it smooths the image just a tiny bit. And the sharpening gives you those nice fine edges back. Then that's pretty much it. That's all I use this for. Hit OK and see. The model looks a lot different now. And another thing I like to add is I like to add layer styles. Typically add like a very, very fine outer glow. I usually do it in white, but it's usually like very, very subtle. Like probably around here-ish. And I like to add a drop shadow. Kind of helps it stand out some, especially like from a plain background similar to this. Hit OK. And if there's like an image or a text or anything like that, I'll typically do the same thing. But I won't add the outer glow on this image because I want Spirit to be the focus of the thumbnail. So we hit OK. And our thumbnail's done. So now all we do is export it and it's ready for YouTube or whatever you're using it for. Sorry this took me so long to record. You guys did enjoy it. Remember, subscribing is free. You can like, comment. If I missed any steps, please, please, please let me know. Or if you need more help. My Twitter's in the description. My Discord should be in the description. My TikTok's in the description. You can send me a message at any time. And if I'm available, I will help anyone who needs help. I really hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you guys in the next one.